Welcome back to the channel, folks. This is Brisket Medic. We are back outside, and much like anything else in barbecue, there is much dismay about trimming or not trimming your brisket. Now, you have the old school purists that say you shouldn't trim anything at all. You open the package, slap some salt and pepper only on it, and cook it over a mesquite fire, and that's it. Some of them only salt and pepper after they cook it. Then you have guys like me that have found that trimming and things like that give me a better product. Now, I don't want to be biased, but that's just what I've found. But today, we're going to trim up a brisket flat, and we're going to cut it in half, and we're going to cook two pieces, one untrimmed, one trimmed, salt, pepper, on the Green Mountain Grill's Jim Bowie, and we're going to cook them side by side and compare them to see what actually comes out better. Is it worth it to trim your brisket before you cook it? Now, a lot of those guys say that they trim it afterwards because the fat is easier to cut off when it's cooked. I disagree. I think there's going to be a lot of burnt ends, a lot of burnt edges, not the good burnt ends, and a lot of wasted meat, a lot of wasted fat, because instead of being able to render it down for tallow or mix it in for hamburger meat, by trimming it beforehand, you're letting it render down and going out to the grease chute, or being left and cut off and thrown away at the end of the cook. So we're going to trim these up. We're going to get this started up 275 degrees. Focus isn't going to be on the cook. We're going to cook them side by side. We're going to check on them, and when they are completely done, we'll get them sliced up and we'll try them out to see who wins, trimmed or untrimmed, right here on Brisket Medic. Folks, it's been 8 hours and we've let these rest about 30 minutes out here in the 57 degree weather, and I think they're going to be nice and cool by now. So I want you to take a first look before we slice into them, everything like that. We have not opened these up at all. We're going to take a look at them together. We've got the non-trimmed and the trimmed. Let's see the trimmed first. Beautiful bark all the way around. Nothing feels dry, like it's gonna crisp off in my hand. Everything's got a nice little sheen to it. Okay, well, let's take a look at the non-trimmed. Okay. Immediately, you hear that? Let's see if you can hear that. Crunchy. That broke off in my hand. Okay, but I digress. Sounds pretty crunchy. Let's go ahead and slice into it, see what's going on. Oh, very hard to cut into. Very, very hard indeed. Right. These cook side by side, folks. So if one did it, I wonder if the other did it. We shall see. There's a little bit of flake in there. But nothing dried out like that. I mean, moist on the top, but nothing here. Pretty well tells me everything I need to know. All right. So we've got the trimmed piece, pulls apart very nicely. Got the untrimmed piece, not a bad pull apart, got to give it that. Not a bad pull apart. All right, so by looks, obviously the trimmed brisket wins. The bark looks great on both of them, but that one's hard as a rock. It's basically charcoal crusted. Texture, it's hard to say. Really, it's once you get past the jerky exterior of the untrimmed, it's got a decent texture, but the trimmed texture is great all the way around. So let's go ahead and do a flavor, tenderness, and moisture test. Trimmed first. I taste the salt. I taste the pepper. Definitely taste the smoke. Okay. It's good. Good brisket. All right. The untrimmed. A little bit of crunchy. I taste the pepper. And I taste the salt, but it's almost more of a roast flavor, like a Sunday roast you'd be used to having at home in the oven. Not a lot of smoke. Not a lot of smoke. The beef flavor's there, but it's more just a roasted beef flavor. Not a ton of smoke. So, edible? Yes. Now, don't get me wrong. The parts that are inedible on an untrimmed brisket would have been trimmed off during the trim, but the difference is on this one, because you can't eat it, you got to throw it away. That fat isn't edible. It's just not great feeling in the mouth. The thin portions get crispy and burnt, overdone. They get cut off and thrown away. Whereas if you trim your brisket first, you can use those things for hamburger meat, for sausage, for tallow, all those things. So nothing really goes to waste if you trim your brisket. But also, the salt and the flavors penetrate through a trimmed brisket more than they do an untrimmed brisket. An untrimmed brisket, just like I hypothesized, the fat layers on both sides keeps that salt from penetrating into the brisket and doing basically a salt slow brine, dry brine during the cooking process. A semi-permeable membrane, such as the exterior or the protein or the muscle of a brisket, will allow sodium and water molecules to pass at different rates. But fat molecules, however, they're not semi-permeable, they're impermeable, and that causes there to be basically a membrane outside of this brisket, and it doesn't allow moisture or salt to pass through. So your flavor is not penetrating through silver skin or fat when you don't trim a brisket, and you're wasting a lot of very usable fat and protein when you don't trim your brisket, because you could be using it for, like I said, hamburger meat, sausage, tallow, things like that. I'm going to keep going with my trim brisket. You do what you do, but there's a lot of evidence to show that it's better to trim it. We cook these side by side, same smoker, same amount of time, same wood, everything. Trimmed is better. Remember to go ahead and hit that thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for the 1,000. We are so excited to be able to provide you with more, better, and often content, because you're awesome. Thanks so much, guys. We love you. Drink more water.